Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Lab Podcast. Today, well, first of all, hi, I'm Cody. and this is Kel.
Hello.
And we will be talking in your ear for the next, I don't know, 30 minutes or so, maybe more, maybe less. But how's it going, Cal?
Oh, it's going. We are officially through week 1 of my recovery from my hysterectomy. So I went to the gym today. I didn't do
Oh,
anything
nice.
really but walk, but felt nice to kind of get back in my full routine
Yeah.
for like the first day in a long time, it feels like.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, like, would you say this recovery has been easier than top surgery, or do you feel like it's about the same? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I don't know, like I feel like it is kind of like a sleeper recovery, like because I feel like the beginning wasn't really a big deal. Like the prep was fucking annoying, and I had a lot of we'll call it insurance bullshit that I was dealing with right before surgery. But the recovery has been like pretty easy because I had a pain pump. Did you have a pain pump? Have you ever
No.
had one of those?
I mean,
So
after phalloplasty, yeah, but
right. Yeah, so I had my pain pump and that like I was fine. Like I hardly had to take anything. I didn't take any of the opioids until after the pain pump was out because then it everything got really sore. And I also way overexerted myself on the first day that I got the pain pump out because my dog went insane and chased a deer, and then I had to go gallivanting through the woods for 3 hours. But this is a way windy, rambly way to say the recovery has been okay. It hasn't been anything major. I feel like there wasn't a lot of care that you had to do, like where's no drains to empty or anything like that.
yeah.
So I would say so far it's easier.
Yeah. That was kind of my experience. Although I wasn't lucky enough to get a pain pump. Um,
Yeah.
but that's nice. Yeah, I just got the usual sent home with some opioids, but I feel like that the most painful part was probably the first few days because it was like if you had any gas or anything, you feel it, or like pooping or something, which is because you have to use like your stomach muscles and you feel like you are beat in the stomach. But after that, I felt pretty normal. So it's one of those things where it's like you have to remind yourself not to do too much because you forget. Um,
Yeah.
so at least it's not like top surgery where you have these massive incisions and you're
You're
like
walking around
stuck.
like this.
Yeah. You can't use your arms, so definitely an easier recovery in comparison. But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, fun.
The worst part right now is that the little incisions themselves are very itchy, and that is
Mm.
driving me insane.
Well, yeah, I mean, at least
Because it's
means
like
they're
the scabs
healing.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you put like some lotion on there? I don't know. Sometimes that helps the
Probably, but
dryness.
I've just been like doing tapping, like just tapping.
Taps.
Yeah.
It's both therapeutic and hits the itch at the same time.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. How you been doing?
Good. I feel like this week I was like high for 48 hours straight after like doing ketamine sessions back to back, which isn't what they normally do, but um so they originally scheduled me for like Tuesday, Friday, but Fridays are check-in days, and it's hard. It was so hard and crazy. So I like tried to get as much done as I could before I had to go do, the thing. And but it took like 3 hours to get out of my system. So I was just like laying there thinking about like having to do work and being like, when is my brain gonna work again? Like I need to get to work. So I don't know why they didn't just give me like Tuesday, Thursdays, but I think maybe he like doesn't do ketamine sessions on Thursdays. He just does clinical stuff. So they put me on Tuesday, Wednesdays. So it was like I was just high for 2 days straight. I feel like because it takes so long to get out of my system. So it's just like I think by the next morning after the first session, I was feeling normal. But then my next session was like 1 p.m. the next day. So I just like hurried up, got a workout in, went straight into session. Then I just like was high for the rest of the day. So
That doesn't
yeah.
sound as bad.
No, I mean right now it's not the worst.
Yeah.
But I think what it makes me anxious, or I hate it, just because it's like you want to function, you feel like you're getting behind, and you want to get things done, and your brain's like, what? Like, what did you want to do? Because we don't know how to do that. So that's a little anxiety provoking, but then I kind of just surrendered and took some rest and didn't do a whole lot on Tuesday, Wednesday besides recovery. And so I was like, I know I needed that. So maybe I should just look at it as a forced way to slow down and take some time off. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the universe is sending it to you. It's like, pause.
Yeah, it's like slow down. We're gonna give you a hard reset, and you just chill. You lay there.
Yeah, you.
So yeah, getting used to
That's good.
that. But other than that, nothing too crazy besides the news and all that is happening, right?
Oh, dude, it's so rough right now. It's so rough. I feel
Yeah,
like everywhere is rough.
yeah. I know RFK just got sworn in, or what's it called?
Confirmed.
Confirmed, affirmed. Okay, I'm still high. I have brain damage.
Oh my gosh. No way. But did you
Lobotomy by ketamine.
well, and like kind of going off of stupid science and loopholes for rich people. Did you I'm guessing you didn't watch the Super Bowl. Yeah.
No, I mean I
Um
heard about it, but I didn't watch it.
right. Yeah, but during the commercial the commercials were weird as fuck this year, I thought. And like not in a good way, like just like what? Um but there was one for him and hers, the vitamin company or whatever,
Hmm.
medical company, and it started off so promising, and then it's like they're trying to poison you with the food and prevent you from like it was like all the good things that we talk about kind of all the time, like the food isn't quality and that's why people get sick and then we benefit off of people getting sick, and it was like talking kind of in a really nice way about like nutrition and fitness and taking care of yourself is the way to do it, and that way you'll have health, right? So it started off all like that, but then it was like take our version of Ozempic instead, and it's
I knew
like
that was
what?
coming.
Because you didn't know who the commercial was for until that part, and then it was like, are you kidding me?
Like you were so close.
It was
Yeah,
so close.
I did hear there was like I think I heard there was like multiple Ozempic commercial situations there. So it's so interesting. I don't when it comes to the RFK thing, I was like looking into wanting to know what he really stood for, because we don't have a choice now, like he's been confirmed. We got to write it out. And you hear uh, a lot of things. I mean, from both sides of what their hopes are, then other side of like the fears of misinformation or his stances on vaccines and stuff. So I was like trying to look into what he really stood for, and honestly, I feel like we're not going to know until
No.
we get into it. So it's like I'm not particularly hopeful. I'm not particularly fearful in a sense, because we just don't know. And I know he has a history that isn't great when it comes to misinformation with vaccines, medications, and stuff like that. Uh, but I mean, I feel like there's a healthy amount of you know questioning or speculation when it comes to pharmaceuticals that everyone has or should. We shouldn't just blindly trust everything. So I just don't know how it's going to play out necessarily. There could be some good things, there could be some not so good things, but we just don't know.
But well, and kind of along the same vein, but in a scarier sense, is that it also doesn't matter what he said in the past, because we found that just because they say something to try to get elected, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to do the exact opposite when they get into office, or like, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't think anybody that Trump is putting into power is going to be actually have power other than like whatever Donald and Elon want. That's what's actually going to happen. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
yes, RFK can say all the good things or all the bad things, but it's in the end, it's going to be what bullshit Elon and Trump can come up with. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think the main thing is people are concerned about vaccines and like losing access to vaccines. So I try to look into some things. And from what I can tell so far, basically he wants to look at the scheduling of vaccines and seeing if they can spread things out more, I guess, just to, not overload the system, or, babies are getting too many at once, etc., which I'm not sure, what science is behind that, if any. But maybe that's something he's wanting to study, that. But at the same time, like, yeah, I don't know. For me, like, cool if something's not working or we need to look into something, awesome. But let's not just make changes without looking into it first. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that like Trump and Elon are doing, they're just like throwing things around and seeing what breaks and then deciding how to fix it from there, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much actual like studying of anything is going to be happening because of all of the funding has been
Yeah.
frozen essentially.
Yeah.
So I don't think anything's going to be actually being researched, and I don't know if RFK is going to really be changing that, since he has such a he's so at odds with kind of general science and like
Yeah.
the scientific industry. Or yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's also this, I think it's going to be hard to really focus on, what would make America healthy again if all the people that are in charge of the country are so out of touch with like the average American, and realizing that it's not just about vaccines and medications, like it's a systemic issue. Like we've talked about this before, people, not having access to food. We got food deserts, but then we've got food prices, and people are just really busy and they have no energy. So it's like relying on, you know, convenience foods because there's no time, and then feeling like shit. And then there's the chronic illnesses that come into play. So it's like, if you can't fix how we live, like no one's going to be healthy again, because people are so miserable that we got convenience foods plus emotional eating, because it's like, they're depressed.
It's dumpster
Yeah.
fire right now.
So it's all just connected, and we need to be able to like make a living wage while working less, so we're not exhausted. Because if you're in survival mode, you're only thinking about surviving, keeping a roof over your head. It's really hard to have the capacity to even think about your health, because you're like, why would I want to live longer? Because fuck this, So in order to give people the capacity to think about their health, there's going to be some bigger changes that are needed, not just, vaccines and chemicals, environmental toxins. Of course, those can have effect, but it is also about people's wages and work hours. There's a reason that those countries out there that have like 4-day work weeks and a bunch more vacation are happier, probably on less antidepressants and all that stuff.
Well, right, because I've had serious conversations with people before. They're like, I'm simply too busy. I know how to do this correctly. I know how to lose weight and I feel better. I look better. Everything lines up when I'm doing all these things to take care of myself. I don't have the time, so I'm going to go the Ozempic route because
Right.
it's covered by insurance sometimes, and they're like, it'll work, it'll take at least some of my risk factors down. I like, it's a easier choice for them, and it's like, well, why wouldn't you? It's hard to argue that, right?
Yeah.
But and the other kind of comment I wanted to have is like, we're talking about a president, and mind you, he has a million bad things, but another bad thing that he has is his diet is not good. Like, he loves to talk about how he eats McDonald's and like all this pop, and not saying that some of that stuff isn't fine in very, very minimal dosages, but like this, like, he's the idiocracy president saying we should all just have more electrolytes. Like, I don't like, it's hard to, this is not a president for your health. Let's be
No.
honest.
Yeah, I think Kennedy was someone he used to get elected, and it worked.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I think he's entertaining Kennedy at this point. But
Yeah.
what's it gonna really change? Like, cool, we have Red Dye 3 that has been banned, and they're gonna be working on that. But like I said, that's not going to do anything.
No.
There's so much more that needs to be done. And I don't know if you saw yesterday, but I posted on Threads, but Elon tweeted something about how, people were, actually, I need to bring it up. I wish I could show it. But something along the lines of, how they're like doing audits and stuff, the DOGE, whatever, Doge. He put some meme essentially said like, why 90% of American loves at Doge. And it's a meme that says, watching Trump slash federal programs, knowing it doesn't affect you because you're not a member of the Parasite class. And it's like this smiley, happy person. And I'm like, are you for fucking real? Like, if you think that people that need government assistance are just a parasite class, that tells you a whole lot of why these people should not be running the country. But that's how out of touch they are. It's like, what do you describe it, or like, what would you define as the parasite class? Because there's plenty of people who, need some help from the government, people with disabilities, veterans. It's just, he doesn't understand because he's never had to deal with it. He's never struggled for money. And I think that's dangerous in and of itself. Yeah.
But also, as someone who's working in the government, like, you're supposed to want to be working for everybody in America. Like,
yeah,
you can't just, so he's just saying that half the Americans, or whatever he's determined is this class, he is not there for and is actively fighting against. Like, he's saying it.
literally. Yeah. It's like, oh, you're a parasite because you're leeching off, Americans that are better off. But it's like, how are they ever supposed to get a step up if they're not receiving some sort of help? I think the systems we have in place, of course, are meant to be, there's people with disabilities where it's not temporary, but it's not their fault. We can't just disregard people because they can't. The thing with society is that people are so different. And I feel like so many, when it comes to mental illnesses or anxiety, depression, is a product of all of us having to kind of fit into the same box, and not, the world doesn't work the same way for everybody because we're all so different, but we're still forced to make it work for us regardless of, yeah. And so it's just harder for some people. And so, yeah, it's fucking depressing if you have to, you have insane amount of anxiety, and every day you have to like pull yourself up by your bootstraps and go to work, and you struggle and you suffer, and that's just what is expected of you regardless. But it's just like, I would never ask someone else to go through that type of suffering or call them a parasite, if they just couldn't. I don't know if that's making sense, but yeah.
No. Well, and like, even if he wants to like get rid of these programs or whatever that are literally sustaining people's lives, there's no, like, he's still supposed to not wish them bad. Like, like, what?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't understand how people can just say that, because like half the hate, I don't. forget why. I don't I don't remember if this was like a new. I don't know. There was some troll on the internet I was fighting, and he said something about how mentally ill I am or whatever, and I'm like, and how the government will take care of me or Trump will take care of me soon, and I was like, I'm an American like the same as you, right? Like we are born in the same place. Like we are like I'm supposed to be in the Constitution. Like even if you think I'm a woman, whatever, we're supposed to be in the like we're regardless of because of where we're born, we are supposed to be covered in the Constitution. And
Yeah.
I was like even at a bare minimum, you can't even just accept that. Like I don't even deserve that. Like I just don't understand because they're so patriotic, land of the free. That's what everybody says all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Who are in those crazy like July 4th, right? And you see it all, even it like the land of the free, protected by the brave or whatever. Even if you want to kind of like go into more of their lingo, like that's also supposed to cover the people who are in here that you don't like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that's the part I don't understand because they love to shout it, but then are like, I don't know, like even at
Yeah.
that bare minimum they can't even wrap their heads around it.
No. And for people who, if we're supposed to make America healthy again and address mental health issues, they sure are assholes about it. Like, so you think that just insulting people is going to cure them? What's your game plan? Are you going to, make access to mental health care more available? Oh, no, probably not, because you're just cutting absolutely fucking everything. So you're going to cut Medicare, you're going to cut, SNAP and all the
Food
things.
stamps, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, how is that making America healthier? You know, do I think we need healthier food for like SNAP benefits? Well, fuck yes. But that's just a whole nother can of worms to open of
Well,
like how we
they
do
need
this.
the food first before you can specify the type of food. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you can't just cut that and then what are you gonna and then they also are gonna be complaining about, homelessness and are those the parasites they're talking about? And I think it's less that, but more like low income people. But like it's so hard. Like, what qualifies as low income these days? I feel like the majority of us probably would,
yeah,
considering prices just keep going up, and they're gonna just continue to keep. It's almost like they're suffocating the lower class out because they're not concerned about inflation now. Now suddenly it's an investment to pay more. Just like you fucking assholes are so like stuck in your brains. But now it's an investment for a better future if we're having to pay more for fucking anything. As before, it was the reason they were so tired of higher prices in groceries and couldn't afford to live. And now they're like, it's going to benefit the greater good. And like, benefit fucking who? The rich people standing in front of you? Okay, cool. But yeah, just make it make sense. I feel like there should be testing in place for narcissistic personality disorder for presidents. Like, there's a mental evaluation to serve in the fucking military. What about the guy running the country? Because he's like textbook narcissist. So how can we have a leader who doesn't give a fuck about anyone but himself?
well, and it's hard to tell anymore who's leading who. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
and we didn't vote for you.
No, no, but supposedly the people who did were like, we knew Elon was part of the package. I'm like, did you? Or are you just, mental gymnasticsing yourself into thinking that? Like, is it just
Yeah.
easier for you? Um, and one other thing this is kind of random, but I was actually thinking about, how are we going to move forward from this? Because you just start seeing, or if we've been seeing just fighting, 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 just huge divides between Americans. But it's funny because basically the fighting just is coming out of talking points, but not actual like lived experiences. And what they don't realize that, it's not left and right. It's like poor and rich, poor versus rich. So it's like, hey, we all are struggling. If we can, acknowledge that part, and then we've got these leaders that are rich, and seems like there's not a lot that they really do to help out or whatever. But I was thinking, how do we move forward? Say there are people who eventually regret voting for Trump. Are they going to be in a place where they're okay with admitting that, or is it more like a cult like situation where they just keep doubling down and stuff like that? And so I was thinking, Trump, but honestly, I swear to God, it's a cult. MAGA is a cult. There's Republicans and then there's MAGA. There's a reason there's two different names, right? There's like Republicans and then there's MAGA. And they're very distinctual, and they will say that, like, MAGA doesn't like this, or MAGA is very unforgiving, or blah, blah, blah. So when it comes to MAGA people, I'm trying to get in this place, which is really, really fucking hard, but I'm trying to get into a place of like compassion by thinking, hey, they're in a cult. I wouldn't blame anyone else who's in a cult like for what they're doing, because they've been lied to. And no one joins a cult on purpose. So how can we move forward and like still have compassion for these people, even though right now they're complete assholes? Because at some point we can't just keep hammering them down, because why would they ever decide to come out of the cult? Because they're like, you guys are in the cult, like, you're assholes. So we're just like yelling at each other. So how can we have this common ground and not blame people who've been lied to or who have been brainwashed or have this like ideology that they just can't step away from? So it's just like, my brain partly wants to be like, we need to have some compassion so that they can start to see out of it and like, come out of it. But then there's also like, but you assholes fucking put us here.
Yeah. I don't like, so I fluctuate a lot, and you are always much more compassionate than I but I really struggle with that, because I try, other than on the no, I view the MAGA people as unwinnable a lot of times, and kind of just try my best to ignore. But what I get really upset about is the MAGA adjacent. So I believe very strongly in like that. It's almost like the 7 steps to Kevin Bacon situation, right? Like, because we're connected in varying closeness to everybody else, kind of. So follow me here in this crazy mess of pain pills that I'm on. But like, if you think about it, like, we have allies in the community who have been cool with like the gays for a long time. Like, for example, I got in this fight with this guy who owns a really gay friendly gym in Columbus, on the internet, because he is still really posting and driving people to the CrossFit Open and like having people join the Open, but they march in Pride every year and have for like 10 years. And I'm like, that's fucking bullshit, right? Like, you need to align, right? And so I get more mad at that situation than I do at the MAGA people, because the MAGA people I'm not going to convince. They're never going to listen to a trans man about
Yeah.
the fact that I should exist. Who they need to get them out of there is that first ring of folks, like someone who's like kind of like them, but is like, well, maybe, and just like starts sharing that opinion, or maybe it's like, well, I don't want to hear those kind of jokes, or like, I'm not going to participate in that because of this. And that's where I think a lot of the change can be made, is like that one step adjacent to you. Like, I don't know if any of that made sense, but that's kind of where I get hung up, is that I kind of expect more out of the people closer, and like, I think that's how we kind of pull the gradient away from those extremes.
Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest problem, is everyone is stuck in extremes. And if you look at like, people who might identify as like libertarians or whatever, they're probably, I guess you would call like more like MAGA adjacent. But I have seen a lot of them be critical of what's going on, which has been nice. Like I saw someone be like pertaining to the trans stuff, where it's just like saying I don't always agree with a lot of the things, but it's like they're just being mean now. And I'm like, thank you. Yeah, okay.
Yes, yeah. You're recognizing it. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's little slivers of hope for the people who are not like MAGA, which is nice. So I'm hoping, those people who are like kind of middle of the road might be more, helpful or beneficial, because it's kind of like, I mean, MAGA sometimes accepts what they have to say, but not when it comes to criticism against their leader. So
The cheetah.
yeah, I think it's gonna take something like to really, really impact that particular group of people. Eventually, people defect, right? We've heard people from both sides like, why I left the left, why I left MAGA, and it's basically two sides of the extremes. So we need to like figure out how to come back to the center, find our common ground. But yeah, it's hard, but also having compassion for those because that have been indoctrinated, because everything they say is literally just repeating talking points of what Trump has said. So it's like they're obviously being lied to. Do I fault them for maybe not doing their own homework? Sure. But at the same time, we've all been in situations where we've been wrong or we've been brainwashed, or at least I know I have been. And it's not great. It's not easy coming out of, because you have to realize when you're coming out of it, like it flips your life upside down. And then realizing like what you once believed in was false, or realizing, maybe you did some damage yourself. It's hard to come to terms with. So we it's hard to vouch to like these people are emotionally mature enough to ever come to that point, but if they do, I feel like we need to not be like, oh yeah, well, fuck around and find out, when they start actually, you know feeling the impact of maybe what is happening, instead of being like, I told you so, like you did this, fuck you, like they were lied to. So it's we don't want to necessarily like victim blame in that situation. If you think
I
about
agree. Yeah.
someone coming out of a cult, we would be like, you didn't know. You just went off of what you thought to be true. So now we move on from here somehow.
Yeah. I think the thing that I am most scared of, though, in that kind of scenario, in that kind, not in the way of thinking, because I agree with you. I do think we need to be understanding of folks once they defect, I suppose. But what I think a lot of people are worried about, and what I'm worried about, is that they're gonna like we're going to go down with the ship. Like it's gonna take something massive to get this kind of group to wake up. It feels like,
Yeah.
um, based on what things they've been able to twist out of already. So how bad does it have to get to the point where it's going to affect them, for us who are maybe in the more dangerous end of kind of having our toes closer to the fire?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And the unfortunate part is that like it literally it really literally affects all of us, so it's hard not to be mad. It's like there's not a lot of cults out there where like their bullshit affects the
Yeah,
whole like country.
right, exactly.
So it's just like that's where it gets sticky. But yeah, if we ever want to change that, it is unfortunately going to take some compassion on our end, so they don't just keep doubling it down. um yeah, like in the case that we were wrong, like I'm not saying we are or whatever, but if we were, would you be likely to, try to listen to other things or come out of it? Or would you double down if someone was just constantly like insulting you, telling you were dumb because you believed XYZ? Or would you be more likely to come to terms with things and change your mind if someone was like, hey, it happens, we all are vulnerable to these things. Uh, you were lied to, and yeah, it happens. So let's figure out a way forward. Yeah.
Crazy. So how do you stay with all this insanity How do we stay without getting overwhelmed? And I think that's what a lot of people are struggling with right now, is not that numb out, tune out, and just go into your hole of despair.
Yeah. I mean, I think personally the most important thing is to be careful of the news in general, because it is always sensationalized. It's a business and they want you to click on it. So if you're going to click on something, make sure to read the whole thing. Don't just read the headline, but also make sure you're getting news sources from all sides. There's an app, it's literally called All Sides. So there's an app called All Sides, so you can get like the news. It kind of labels it, so it'll be like left, right, center, so you know where it's coming from, so you can kind of, you know, it's just interesting to know how something is spin on all of the sides, so you can kind of form your own opinion and just know more, instead of just being like, okay, I'm only reading this one news source and I know they agree with my opinion and ideologies, so it's safe. I feel like this is a time to get a little uncomfortable, and we don't really have a choice but to try to figure out, the other side a little bit. Like, think of it as studying. It's anthropology, all right, cultural anthropology. So, and then there's another one. It's called ground news. So they're both pretty similar. So I would say like those are great places to get news sources, and maybe set a schedule like 1 to 2 times a day that you check it, and set a time limit and then put it away, because we don't really know much like something might happen, an executive order might get signed, but again, we don't know when everything's really going to into effect, or if it will. Is it going to be turned? Is the judge going to overturn it? So it's easy to react in the moment, but we got to try not to.
Yes, absolutely. I know. I think also scheduled breaks off social media are a good thing, especially if your livelihood is not tied to it. But just taking like a weekend day off or something, like 1 day a week where you just don't get on social media, because it can be hard sometimes. So taking a break is always nice to have that kind of hard reset.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And even if your livelihood does depend on it, you can still like schedule it a little bit, like post something, spend a little time, and then like close it out, and then leave it closed out for a few hours or something. I know algorithms don't love that a whole lot, but you got to do what you got to do.
Your head is more than a job. You
Yeah.
have to keep your sanity through this. I think also making sure that you're doing something that fills your cup in some way. We have to make sure that you're not just running on empty all the time.
Yeah.
But doing something that you like and that you have fun with, and that gives your brain some like creative juice.
Yeah, for sure. Something that can keep you present and give you, meaning is fulfilling. And I think that's where it's like making sure you're staying in touch with your present bubble, your present community. And that's really important, because that's who you're going to spend all these 4 years with, right? We're not most likely not going to like surround ourselves with MAGA people, at least not on purpose. And so, really, the internet is going to be our biggest interaction with them, unless it's like we run into them in the wild because we're out in red counties and country, So, but generally, unless it's something confrontational or obvious about, like they say something, I don't know, conflict in person is a lot less, unless you're looking for it.
Well, and I think the other thing is, don't look for it if you aren't ready for it, because that if you go into the comment section, you're gonna see something you don't like. And I'm talking to me myself, because I do this. I do this. But need to stay out of the comment section, and I suggest that other folks do too. It's a painful place to be. You're never gonna win. You're never gonna win. You're never gonna
Yeah.
convince someone something that they don't are already decided what they think.
Yeah.
You're not gonna convince someone who's not listening. So
Yeah.
and they're not listening to you.
No. And unfortunately, in those circumstances, the people that are not going to listen, usually it takes them also having a personal experience or someone close to them. Pertaining to like the trans stuff, a lot of these people don't have actual personal experience with a trans person that they know of, at least. And I think a lot of people who maybe 10 years ago would have ended up on the MAGA side maybe don't now because they have, a child who's trans or a sister, brother, whatever. So there's just a lot more personal connections to people in the LGBT community. So maybe what's ever left with the MAGA situation, there's a lot of religious folks. So maybe there's some internalized shit. There's a lot of internalized shit like transphobia, homophobia. So a lot of them are mad that people like are not living how they're living. And honestly, I feel like a bit of jealousy in there. I mean, it's the reason why we hear, like Grindr being so busy at the Republican National Convention. Like, it's just like they're all closet cases. It doesn't mean that they don't have that in their communities. They just try to hide it. Yeah.
Well, and I also think that the going kind of off your jealousy thing is, I do think it is like, because like they know how bad it is for trans people. They know, like they're not saying what we're doing is easy, but I think they get jealous that like we fucking did it and we're doing it. Like we're living our lives regardless of what they've set up, and we're happy. Like trans joy scares people because they know they've put us through the ringer and we made it out and we thrived. And a lot of those folks might not be thriving in their lives. And if we can do it with all the bullshit, I think it's a big hit to their ego.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's why it's just like the biggest goal is to just keep showing, like biggest act of rebellion is just keep living your life and keep living your best life, trying to thrive. And it doesn't mean that you're just going to like be toxically positive all the time because shit's hard.
And it's not fun.
No.
Like we're not having fun. No one's having fun right now.
Nobody is having fun. It's so true. But a lot of it right now is like shock to the system. There will be, I think, a point where unfortunately the chaos normalizes a little bit. Not to say that we just to, what's it called?
Not to be apathetic.
Yes, exactly. Not to downplay everything, but it can't just be at this chaos for 4 years straight, hopefully. Or at least we'll get an idea more of like what he can actually do and what he can't. As much as him and Elon are wanting to like get rid of all our checks and balances in the government, hopefully, that won't happen.
Yes, absolutely. Do you want to talk about our other exciting thing that you were putting together?
Yeah. So, speaking of community and how important that is, put together a Discord server, which is called The Resistance, but it's resistance as in also with resistance training. So it's, the resistance combined. So little logo is like a, holding a dumbbell, but like punching in the air, and so figured, we would create a space to help us get through these 4 years plus, just like-minded people. So anyone in the LGBT community and allies, so you don't have to be like trans or gay or whatever. It's just like, if you're allies, you're also welcome. So
no bullshit though. So, and we will kick you out if there's bullshit.
Oh yeah, we will. Definitely will kick you out for some bullshit. So, but it has to be like really severe bullshit. We're not just gonna
We're not
be
rude.
trigger happy. Yeah. It's like, it's also can be a place for conversation, as long as that conversation isn't like just awful, bullshit that we get with trolls. So yeah, it's a small little community so far, but hopefully we can grow it and get more people in it. So if you are interested, I'm going to put the link to the Discord channel in the description, and then you can join on in the resistance, and we can use it to vent. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like it's a safe place to talk about what is going on, because it's something we can all like fucking vent about. I think I toggled with the idea of like, should we just like keep politics out of it? But then it just feels a little surfacey, and no one's
Yeah.
talking about how they feel and what's going on. But you can also use it to organize, if needed, or so it's yeah, come join
Or
us.
decipher things, because I mean, for God's sakes, we all know that the executive orders that are coming out left and right are not easy to understand. So
Yeah,
I think it's also a cool place that we can share and figure out what we need to do to stay safe, and kind of keep showing up for each other. Um, but yeah, and also to share our joys, because sometimes you don't
yeah,
know, like people don't know how hard you're having it, and sharing a win, seeing a win always helps everybody. So it's a place to root
yeah,
each other on too.
yeah, exactly. We can show how we're thriving, surviving, and we're just having a fucking shit day. So
Yeah.
all emotions are welcome.
Can we maybe we can throw up a link or something on Insta so we can
Yeah,
drive people there? Cool.
yeah, for sure. So we'll do
Cool.
Instagram description. We'll post it everywhere,
Somewhere.
pretty much. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else? Are you ready for the power talk?
I think we're ready for the power talk.
Hell yeah. Okay, so I have this quote. It's from Albert Schweitzer. I don't know who he is, if I'm being honest, but here's the quote. I liked it. Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you do, you will be successful. Um, and I think that that's kind of where I wanted to focus, because right now it's kind of, I don't want to say it's impossible to be happy, but it's impossible to not have some rough days right now, or rough times. And I don't want to slap on a happy face and say we just need to keep on having joy, but I do think that like we have to find joy in amongst the despair. Right now, I know it's really hard some days, but I think finding that joy will help us stay together and keep on pushing. I know there was this quote from one of the people in Stonewall, that was big in the Stonewall riots. I am so sorry, it is slipping my mind who it is, but they said in it was something along the lines of, in the daytime we fight, in the night we sleep, and then, or in the night we dance, or something like that. We fight, we organize, and then at the night we dance. And it was about how dancing and having happiness is so important, even during the resistance and during the rough times. I know I'm
Yeah.
rambling, but
No,
again.
I like that. It just puts it in perspective, and just being like, strength also comes from, you know, positivity when you can find it, and
Yeah.
still enjoying life among ourselves, and we have each other, and that's
Yep.
important.
Yep. Absolutely. Um, but that's all we got for today.
Cool. Well, not the average health and fitness podcast, but there's just so much going on. I feel like we can't just, how like 10 ways to lose fat, like it's just it doesn't seem
Just
right.
be so inauthentic right now.
Yeah.
For our community, and I think the people who listen to us, and I think it's important to recognize and understand that having gains and focusing on all your fitness and nutrition right now is not going to happen in a vacuum. And you're not going to be perfect right now. And the more we recognize and be honest about that and try to help each other, support each other, that's how we move forward. That's how we keep getting your goals and staying sane at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. All
All
right.
right.
Well,
Adios.
Bye.